Hey, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I'm Ron Luce, joined tonight by Cody and Joe. We're here for a weekend recap. We'll touch a little bit on the Cubs' big win from yesterday, their 13-4 win that Cody got to experience in person. And then we'll also talk about the 13-4 ass whooping that they took today on Sunday. But boys, how are we feeling? How are you guys?
Good. I'm thinking Cody needs to go to every game, though. He's 2-0 for a 6-win team. That's saying something, Cody. It really is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. I go and the bats wake up. The first game me and Joe went to, we saw 3 home runs. I go yesterday. We see 6 home runs. I mean, I don't even think the offense was a problem tonight, but we'll talk all about it. But I mean, I don't know what it is. It's just I'm taking full advantage of going back to Wrigley as much as possible because I missed it so much last year. I don't care if this team just fucking shits the bed and sucks all summer. I'm gonna go. That's just how much I missed it. So, yeah, I'm with you, Joe. If you guys want to start a GoFundMe so I can go to every game, I will. I'll be part of that.
If they keep playing this way, you'll be able to get some cheap tickets on the secondary market. I shared with our group that on maybe it was yesterday,
Friday.
the day before. Friday.
Yeah.
We could have gotten $5 tickets like 20 minutes before game time. It wasn't even like right at like 1 o'clock. I checked because I was bored and I'm like, wow, $5 to get in the ballpark in the same section you and I were sitting in when we saw each other on the first home game, or not the first night game we were at.
Yeah.
Together.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if I lived in the city, I totally would have hopped on that, especially on Friday. And from my day job, I ain't doing a lot on Fridays, admittedly. So I would have jumped on that if I lived in the city.
Nobody does a lot of their day job on Fridays, but yeah, you know how am I feeling, Ron? Riding the roller coaster, of the 162 game season that you get as a Cubs fan. Cody hinted at like today the offense wasn't really the problem. I mean, yeah, they scored 4 runs. You'd like to see more than 4, but there was a stat, was it yesterday, where when the Cubs do score 4, this might be their first loss when scoring 4 or more, I think. There were some encouraging things from the offense and still some things that just showing their ugly head. What stands out to me about this game, let's go positive first. Chris Bryant had a nice base hit up the middle his first at bat, and I loved it because he's been doing this lately. He's going with the pitch. He's wisening up to the fact that, okay, I missed my chance to try to hit a home run. And by the way, I don't think major leaguers ever really truly try to hit home runs. Some do, but most of them, they just have a swing and they have a power swing, a lot of these guys. And that's why some fans will be like, I can't believe they're swinging like that. I'm like, that's their swing that they were taught that got them paid millions of dollars. They're not crazy about adjusting it too often, So sometimes it looks bad in certain situations. But Chris lately has been a guy where he's being smart. Oh, they're going to pitch me away? I'll poke it away, which is something the Cubs just haven't shown a lot of. The Braves do it very well. Freeman, Acuna, I always pronounce his name wrong and I feel bad.
Yeah.
He's the guy where it's like, oh, you're going to throw me junk on the outer edge? I'm going to hit it that way. And that's something that really kills us to watch because that's what makes it frustrating. If the Cubs put together at bats like they did today, the rest of the season, at least it'll be somewhat enjoyable. I'm not assuming, look, Kyle Hendricks isn't going to give up 6 bombs in the first inning or 6 runs in the first inning, 4 bombs. That's not, Kyle Hendricks has had slow Aprils before. He had a 3 ERA coming into today. I see some people beating him up a little bit on Twitter. I think that's a little bit, even great starters, like, Mama said there'd be days like this. That happens. I'm more encouraged about the quality of bats. We saw David Bodie these last couple games. I mean, he was hitting into hard luck early in the year, but these last couple games, the quality of at bat, the pitch is being seen. But still, right now, Javi, I don't care that he doubled in a run late. He had a 3-run homer yesterday. That's all good and well. But for him to be someone that I'm confident or comfortable with the Cubs investing long-term money, and I guess we have a topic of conversation there, I need to see more consistent at bats. I can't see that 6th inning. We had first and third, nobody out, and he went up there with no game plan. You need to understand. And then I'm sorry, I'm rambling a lot up top here, but then Hayward followed him with no game plan. It's like Jason Hayward, who I do love this guy. You've been in the league for a good 10 seasons now. You have to understand with first and third and 1 out, they're trying to get you to hit a ground ball. They threw nothing but dive ball sinkers out of the zone at him, and he was golfing at every one of them. And it's like, dude, you got to relax. Let the game come to you. Your first pitch swinging at a pitch of like 3 inches off the ground with runners at first and third. That's the sign of someone that's just pressing. And you don't like to see it because he's like a veteran and a guy who's a really smart baseball player.
Yeah. I think, Joe, me and Ron, I've gone on rants about Javi Baez in these first 2 weeks. And it pains me because I love Javi. Like, I love Javi. He's a big part of 16 NLCS MVP, MVP runner up in 18, and I don't know if you guys saw the news, or I guess heard what Buster Olney said. Apparently, before the 2020 season, the Cubs offered him $180 million contract, and he said no to that. Which maybe after the 19 season, I could understand maybe why he would do that. But he ain't gonna get anything near that if he continues to play like this. On top of what happened in 2020, man, like I said last year, Javi Baez in 2020 looked like rookie Javi Baez, where he's striking out like 45% of the time. He's guessing at the plate. He's either he can't hit a high fastball because the way I don't want to say it's because of the way he swings, but he does golf a lot of balls. He golfed one tonight, one of those home runs against Pittsburgh in a recent series. He golfed one and he swings at so many pitches outside the zone. And sometimes that's all great and dandy when he hits it. But at the same time, he swings and misses a lot. I think they showed a stat tonight that said that he leads baseball in whiff percentage by like a whole 10 to 12% more than anyone else. And again, I bring up the $180 million contract extension. It's like, man, if he was playing like this after Cubs give him that kind of contract, offer, I'm sitting here happy that he said no. And if the Cubs offer him anything and he continues to play like this, they're not going to be able to get any kind of value for him at the trade deadline if they even wanted to trade him. Or maybe they could, just based off youth. And I'm just kind of rambling and I'm upset and pissed off. But you're not right. I don't know if he would. I don't know if he would get the Cubs a top tier prospect the way he's playing, because he's so all or nothing right now. And it's so easy to see. They're when A-Rod is actually right about something on the broadcast, that says something, man. It pains me. It physically pains me. But there's a reason the Cubs signed or drafted Ed Howard, and a reason they drafted Cesar Hernandez, and got a couple shortstops in that Yu Darvish trade. Especially after, I understand it a lot more now, especially after hearing of the contract that they offered him. $180 million is a lot. I don't think any of us, even after 19, thought that Javi Baez was worth $180 million. To me, that's the Cubs saying that we're going to do anything we can to keep you around.
There's some good comments in coming in right now, but Ron, dude, I'll pivot it back to you because Cody and I have been hogging the mic a little bit here, only because Cody and I are just so fucking awesome, So I agree though. When you said 180 million, I thought to myself, well, 2018 MVP runner-up, 2019 he was still very productive. He had 29 home runs, close to 100 RBI. The on-base percentage was really low that year, which caused his OPS plus to be down around 114, which means he's 14% above league average. Defensively, of course, a stud. The thing about that though is he missed the last month of 2019. Remember that? He missed a good 3 to 4 weeks of baseball at the end of the year, which kind of did cost the Cubs because they had so many one-run losses that you couldn't help but think maybe if Javi was there, things are a little different.
Right.
Sorry, I'm a little choppy in the video feed here, but if I'm his agent and I get offered $180 million after he was hurt the last month of a season and knowing what the shortstop free agent class was going to be, I take that. And the fact that he didn't, I wonder if at the end of this year, Javi doesn't fire his agent. Because
that, or he just really thought he was one of the best shortstops in the game. And in 2018, 2019, I think you could argue that he was at least in the top 10. And right now you just can't say, and you couldn't say in 2020. You just can't. I think that's on his agent. I think that's also on Javi because I put it on Javi too because he's saying no. Right. It just sucks because this guy, he's such a big part of such a big part of Cubs history. I mean, there's a fucking street named after him somewhere in the city, and
Humboldt Park, Puerto Rican neighborhood.
Thank you. And like, if this is how it ends with Javi Baez, it's like he's always going to be a fan favorite, blah blah blah, all that good stuff. But we're always also going to remember like a really tough ending if things don't turn around for him, because right now, and even if his approach and everything changes in the next, over the next month or two or whatever, it's still, you're still sitting there wondering, okay, do we want to invest long term on this guy? I would still say no.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too that you bring up, Cody, and you as well, Joe, because think about it this way: like, what if now, right? And I think this is a good way to put it, Joe. You mentioned some of the good comments we've been getting. Baseball Bouge. In hindsight, it's a godsend for the Cubs that he turned down that contract, and yeah, maybe it kind of is, because now, Cody, you mentioned kind of that reload at the shortstop position. Ed Howard, the couple of guys, Apprecio being one of the names that they got in San Diego, the Yu Darvish trade. The guy that they just brought up, Baby A-Rod that they just signed internationally. They have a lot of depth at the shortstop position now. And you can honestly throw Nico into that conversation too, as like a bridge guy that could play shortstop if you truly wanted and needed. So I think now, and maybe this is me spinning it a little bit, but now I think him denying, turning down that contract opens up the doors for either really three options. And I know this is going to sound, oh, well, no shit, Dick Tracy, but there's one option in particular I'm intrigued by. They can either still sign him long-term, right? 5, 6, 7 years, however long.
But how
they
much?
Could. Right. Oh, absolutely. No, definitely part of the question. They could obviously not sign him at all. Or do you all of a sudden now present Javier Baez with a 3 or 4 year contract that's maybe built on options, saying, hey, look, we like you, we want to keep you around, but you're 60 games in 2020, and again, early in the season, this could totally change as the year goes on. We don't know yet, but so far in 2021, you don't look any different. So either A, you can be a part of the short-term answer, and eventually, Ed Howard or somebody like that's going to bump you to third base or bump you to another position, or maybe he's just not a part of the future, and that's the direction that they're trending all of a sudden. So I'm really intrigued to hear what you guys think about that.
Well, I'll go first, Cody.
Go ahead.
I think, it sucks to say, it really does. I don't re-sign. He's not part of the future right now. He just isn't.
I agree.
You look at his game and the problems this team have. And also you mentioned, do you say to Javi, hey, how about a 3-4 year deal with, some incentives or whatever? I don't think Javi takes that. I think if Javi finishes out this year, as a below average hitter, but still has the defense, which I imagine he will, and all that, I think it'd be in his best interest. If I was his agent, I'd be like, hey, look, I think what you need to do is go to another team, sign a 1 year deal with an option the way Schwarber did with the Nationals and the way a lot of players kind of did across baseball, and just change the scenery, get some perspective on some stuff. I don't know, because I really don't think, I think part of what a lot of these guys, and I've said it before in this podcast, early offensive struggles this season is due to the lack of uncertainty into their future. And so again, if I'm the agent, they already told him to turn down 180. I'm thinking, hey, there's a team out there that's going to like you. Go sign with the Mets and play with your best friend for a year, rebuild some value there. If you go off and have an insane year, you're a free agent again at the age of 30, because I think he'll be 28, 29 this upcoming season. Maybe he's 28 now, 29, 30. That's enough that could get you a 5-6 year deal and some big money. But right now, again, there's 5 shortstops available, and a couple of those shortstops could be marketed as third baseman. Not that Javi couldn't, but there's competition. Where Rizzo's a little different. Besides the free agent market at first base is Rizzo and Freeman. That's why I'm thinking we sign Rizzo. Yeah, I mean, we're getting a couple comments here. R. Caldy 1908's like, we haven't gotten a single core player to sign an extension, at least overpay for one, right? I don't know if you overpay for one. If no one, I think Rizzo and Bryant should be mainstays, and I would extend Wilson Contreras. I would extend Contreras now because we don't want to go through that same bullshit we're going through now with these three with him next year. I would figure it out with Rizzo. I think 5 years, 90 million is probably a good move at this point. I think Rizzo would take that. It's a raise of 2 million plus per season. He's at 16 now. That'd be 18. Then interesting with Bryant, guys. Since we're in a weird time as Cubs fans, let's throw this out there, and then Cody, you could elaborate.
Okay.
I'm trade Bryant because I think he's going to be kicking ass at the deadline like he's kicking ass now. Like right now, Chris Bryant entered today 13th best WAR in baseball, 6th in the National League. So he's right now a top 10 player in the NL. That's going to get you some nice prospects. Why don't we trade Bryant if we're not in it at the deadline, and then play some fucking 5D chess or whatever they call it and re-sign him in the offseason? Why can't we pull a Yankees? Really, why can't we do that? He loves it here. If Jed tells him that, if Jed goes, hey, I'm going to trade you because we're out of it right now and you could get me some nice pieces. And guess what, Chris? I love you so much. I'm going to come after you hard in the offseason. And maybe you won't want to come here, but guess what, dude? I'm going to be bothering Scott. I'm going to be up Scott Boris's ass because we drafted you. We love you, but this makes the most sense for us right now and in the future. So why not do that? I think that'd be a really cool thing to do. He comes back, we get Brizzo 2.0 going. And then you got, there's still a ton of money. We talk about this over and over again. There's so much money. If baseball will be back at full capacity for games next year, right? We're figuring out this vaccine thing. You'll get booster shots annually and all that shit, but it'll be back at full time. There's Marquee needs ratings. And I think sign those two guys, and you'll still have money left over to flirt with Corey Seager and Carlos Correa and whoever else might be out there. Noah Syndergaard, what's up? Anyone else got a boner? I do. But let's have some fun with it.
Yeah. No, Joe, I think that's a good point. I haven't really thought about that too much, only because I honestly, you don't see that happen a lot. I mean, I know the Yankees did it, but it's been 3-4 years since that happened. I think a lot of teams just care so much more about their prospects and farm system now more than ever before. But I'm not against it. I just don't know if the Cubs would actually be able to pull it off. Again, we're talking about the Yankees and the Cubs. The Yankees, I mean, they were in a complete different. Yeah, they're the Yankees first off, and then they're in a. I think when they did it, they were just in a complete different situation. I could be wrong. I know they were like I always envisioned this year to kind of be like what the Yankees were in 16, maybe compete but rebuild at the same time. They got a wild card game that year, whatever. But I mean, I think the Cubs. I think they need to find a way to keep Bryant around, because you kind of hit it on the nail at the beginning, Joe. Just like his approach is better than like anyone else on the roster. Him and Wilson Contreras, and now Anthony Rizzo heating up the last couple of days. Bryant's approach that will keep you in the league for a long time, and that's just, to me, those are the kind of guys you want around. What's his name? Arcaldi says that he doesn't think Bryant's happy in Chicago, wants to go back to the West Coast. Again, Jesse Rogers, you've fed people information that's not true. So thank you again, Jesse Rogers, for that. Yeah, man, I think that's a good idea though, Joe. I think that I think that Chris Bryant should be the number one priority, and I've been saying that for 2-3 years, and it's fun. It's nice to see him produce when he's healthy. Me and you, I know you got Bryant in the background there. We've been Bryant guys for a couple years, and having to freaking tell the crowd hey, this guy is one of the best players in the league when healthy. And I think I said it on the past shows, he's versatile defensively. He's not elite defensively, but he's versatile. You can play him the corner outfielders. So, as he gets older, you can put him out there. Hopefully by, if not next year, the year after, the DH is available. So even still, you can use him there. It's just, there's a lot more certainty with him than anyone else outside of Rizzo, because I think Rizzo is right around the same thing. He's not going to cost as much, but when it comes to whether it's him or Javi Baez, which is something that we've been talking about for forever, it's, even when Javi was having his best years, I still thought that Chris Bryant was the one you want to keep around, just because of the approach. Javi's just too all or nothing, man. And I know the broadcast team on ESPN tonight was talking about, there's so many guys who are all or nothing in baseball now, and it's not good for the game and stuff. I again, not many things I agree with that ESPN broadcast, but it's kind of true because you're just not seeing a lot of action. You see a lot of strikeouts. Cubs struck out like 13, 14 sometimes tonight. Like, it gets boring. So KB, he's making things happen, whether it's on the base pads, having good at bats, his approach, like I said, and Javi's it's just all or nothing, man.
Well, and Cody too, like you and I have talked about it at length on this show, over the last week or so. It's about consistency. Like, we wanted to see that from these offensive bats finally this year. Like, just some consistency, please.
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy shit. Like, give me just a little bit of something that we can get used to. And to your point, Chris Bryant is consistent. You know what you're consistently getting with Chris Bryant as long as he's healthy. And for the most part, really, outside of 2018, really, he's been pretty healthy. I know he was a little hurt last year, but who knows what it is over 162? Maybe he still misses, the 25 games or whatever, but maybe that's the only games he misses and still plays, 140 or 130 or whatever. But, again, when he's in the lineup, like, what you're going to get, and he's putting it together this year. He looks fantastic. He looks healthy. He's driving the shit out of the ball when he is hitting it. Even when he's kind of quote unquote missing it, like, he's still getting a piece of it. He's taking it to different directions. He looks good, and he's a complete hitter. And I love that you brought up the DH, Cody, because that just expands then the ability to keep a guy like Chris Bryant around for longer because, his age is catching up and he can't play third base anymore. That's fine. Then he plays the corner outfields and he can DH. Like, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. He can give Riz a blow at first base for
Rizzo could DH and KB could play first.
Exactly.
Right.
So there's
Which
a lot
KB
of
did
options.
on Saturday in that blowout. I don't know if you do it in a close game, but still, like, he can.
He started a few full games at first. When Rizzo's been out here or there, and that's
he's as versatile of a player defensively as the Cubs have had outside of like Ben Zobrist and even Javi Baez, I guess. So, again, it's just to me, it's not even a question.
No, KB is where the money goes. I just want to say there's a few, and by the way, thank you everyone for checking in. These comments are great. Someone mentioned if you don't, the Big Joe 28, you have to re-sign 3 of the 5, otherwise it's full rebuild mode in his opinion. And that's a fair opinion, but in my head, it's like, say you sign 2 of the Big 5, or say you even sign 1 of the Big 5, you could still take the money that saved from not signing the other 4 and go out and sign other names. Now, I have to reiterate this. I feel like a lot of these players are still very good players. This group just doesn't work as a lineup anymore because the styles are just too damn similar. So when they run into a pitcher who's like great at throwing breaking balls away and fastballs high in the zone, they all look terrible, which is why you want a team where it's like, oh, this guy's a nightmare matchup for Bryant and Contreras, but Rizzo and Corey Seager will rock him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you want that where, because if you have all 8 guys hitting a certain style, you're going to go boom or bust, which the Cubs really have been boom or bust since 2016. The difference is they had Fowler at the top and Zobrist kind of in the middle to balance that out a little bit. But the other core was like that. And they never got better at adjusting. I complained about that earlier where it's like, it's not even adjustments. It's knowing the situation. Like, you have to know how they're going to face you. There are times where Cubs hitters go up there and they swing at pitches where I'm like, what did you think you were going to get? What the fuck did you think he was going to throw you in this situation? He doesn't want you to hit a fly ball. There's a runner at third with less than 2 outs. He wants you to hit the ball on the ground or strike out. He's pitching away. And yet you'll see that Javi's notorious for this. A few of the Cubs' other hitters do this shit a lot, where they will reach out and they're clearly trying to pull the pitch because they're thinking, I got to hit a fly ball to get that runner in. Where it's like, no, you could hit a single down the fucking line. That's an option too. And I think they've gotten into this weird thing where they're like, well, we can't fire our hitting coach again because we don't want reporters, the Jesse Rogers of the world, to be like, that's their 5th hitting coach and 7. Who gives a shit? If they're not getting the job done, get rid of them. I don't care. Do any fans give a fuck? Hire a new hitting coach. I had new teachers every year. I didn't get to 6th grade going, what, a new teacher? That's how life goes. Like, I mean, I know I'm exaggerating and being silly here, but like, I just hate that narrative. ESPN mentioned it too. They're like, well, it's a new hitting coach. And because the other ones weren't getting it done. And some people will bring up Chili Davis going, oh, he was the scapegoat. You know what? The Mets offense is like 2 below the Cubs. So let's not fucking go off to act like Chili Davis was the man too. Maybe we should have realized, okay, these guys are having trouble hearing different points of view, because the story is that Bryant and Rizzo basically drove Chili Davis out because they didn't like what he was preaching. Okay, there's a happy medium there. Because I understand what Theo was going through. He's like, well, I'm not going to get rid of all these all-stars because they hate the hitting coach. So I'll get rid of the hitting coach. But in the same regards, they needed to tell someone to bring in, hey, you need to listen to other opinions here. Okay, Chris, your dad did a great job, but he's not your hitting coach for the rest of your life. And there's just some things that we need to do approach-wise that I think Brian's doing this year, which is what's been so refreshing. Right. Because to me, it's like, oh my God, this is like the next step up for Chris. More so this last week than I've seen since maybe 2017, where he has taken the outside pitch and driving it the other way. He's having at bats where he's just, oh, I'll just throw the head of the bat on the ball and dump it out into right center. He's doing that, and I want to see more of that. And I don't care who the hitting coach is. If they're not getting the job done, you bring someone else who is. Don't care what the stupid media narrative is. I don't. Bring in a new hitting coach if they're going to get through to these players that, hey, on 2-0, you're not getting an automatic fastball. On 3-1, you're not getting an automatic fastball. Stop pissing away at bats. Stop missing your pitch. Javi had an at bat today. He got a first ball fastball and stared at it. It's like, that's your one fight. And right there, I knew when he took that pitch, I'm like, that's an out. It was in the first inning. First inning, we get 2 runs back. Or no, he actually got lucky. He got lucky in the first inning. I forgot.
It was when he dove into first base on a ground ball.
I appreciate the hustle, though. You know, that show the fans who think these guys don't care, they clearly fucking care. You're not diving head first in a contract year,
in
risking
April,
breaking your hand or your shoulder if you don't give a shit, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up Chili Davis, because it has been a talked about theme on Cubs Twitters. People looking at hindsight and saying, "Oh, Chili Davis, we should have kept him around." It's like, I guess in 2018, you know, the Cubs' approach I thought was better in 2018. They got a lot more hits, but they lost a lot of power, and I thought that was a big reason why they removed him, because I think everyone on the team in 2018, except for Javi, because he had that MVP type season, everyone else, their numbers dropped in terms of home runs, and you know, obviously home runs are a big thing in, you know, today's game, because like I kind of said, a lot of guys have, I don't want to say they're preaching all or nothing, but they're, you know, preaching launch angle, all that good shit. So preaching doubles, triples, homers, whatever. So I'm glad you said what you said, because I haven't been someone who said that, you know, we should have kept Chili Davis. I just, you know, I just think if it's not Iapoce, then like if it's not his fault, then like, I just think a lot of these guys, I think a lot of these guys might just be, they are who they are. Some of them, like, and that sucks, because for so long we were like, you know, these guys are going to be, you know, around for a long time. We're going to win a couple rings, whatever. It just made me so mad having to hear fucking Buster Olney say something along the lines of, if the Cubs don't win the World Series this year, you know, they'll look back and they'll say, you know, starting pitching was the reason that they didn't, or the inability to develop starting pitching was the reason they didn't win another one. And it's like, dude, you haven't watched a game in fucking ever, because it's definitely more so on the offensive side on why they haven't won again, in my opinion.
I mean, we won a division solely through starting pitching last year and pitching. The pitching apparatus is getting so much better. I mean, look, Yu Darvish credits Tommy Hotovy with turning him around. Right, Darvish was an all-star. His first year here was terrible. Had an injury, came back, but really, Hotovy did such a great job. How many of these no-name bullpen pitchers have we brought in who have put up great numbers? Craig Kimbrell's back to looking elite. There's just, I even like, look, there's been a few blow-up games from the starting pitching this year. I know Davies has had a couple bad innings that's really blown up his ERA, and then Hendricks today. But for the most part, we've been in every game, and that's all you could ask for your starting pitching. If you guys want a stat before this season, from 2015 to 2020, the Cubs had the second best ERA in baseball next to the Dodgers. It hasn't been the pitching for why we have not gone back to the World Series. It has been the offense. That's just how it's been, you know? Yeah. And some people would say, well, we spent money on pitching that we could have spent on hitting. True, but in the same regard, didn't we believe that this core this young core was going to just get better and better. Because I remember when they won as 23 and 24 and 25-year-olds in 2016, thinking, man, imagine how good they're going to be in 2019 and 2020 entering their prime. And they actually had good individual seasons in 2019. They really did. If you look back at those numbers, they had very, very good individual seasons. But again, it's just too similar of a lineup. Opposing pitching could game plan very easy for what the Cubs bring to the table, which is why they need a makeover. Fans don't let the media sell you they need a full rebuild. Okay, I'm hearing some people go like, it's gonna be 5 years before we're good again after we start making trades. I'm like, how do you accept that with the highest ticket prices in baseball, a new network that needs ratings to survive? Right? This is, if no one's watching it, it's going belly up. It's going to be a broke network. So I implore the fans not to accept that. Someone asked who's going to take over for Baez, and they suggested, a minor league player. And I'm like, how about a fucking big name that's out there? You know what I mean? That there's guys out there that you could go
about Corey Seager, for example.
I would love Corey Seager. I love what he brings to the table. Because again, like I'm saying, with Rizzo and Bryant, even when they're struggling, there's a good plate approach there. Like, they're gonna break out of it soon. But when Javi's going bad, it's something where it's like, man, I just don't see him getting out of it because his approach is so mental. It's mental to keep swinging at sliders 3 feet out of the zone. That's just an aggressiveness that can't be untaught. You were just hoping to harness.
Yeah, they said, I think A-Rod, I tweeted from the Cubs on Tap account, like A-Rod talking about Javi and like his approach and like everything. He was pretty much exactly right about it, just saying that he's trying way too hard right now. He's guessing. And I mean, he literally saying all the things that we said, and that's why I tweeted, because it was like kind of mind-blowing that he did that, like that he said something that we can all agree with, at least, because we can never agree with anyone on these ESPN broadcasts.
They're terrible.
Yeah, they're so bad. But yeah, man, I don't know. Ron, you have any thoughts, man? I feel like me and Joe keep cutting you off.
Sorry, Ron.
No, you're good, man. Honestly, like I think overall, just kind of talking through some of the contract stuff, like to me, the three that do make the most sense right now, just based on what we're seeing and kind of value position and things like that, it should be Bryant, Rizzo, and Contreras are the three that get locked up. They have plenty of depth, and God forbid, let's say they can't land one of the big fish. Let's say Seager signs somewhere else and Story signs somewhere else and Correa goes elsewhere or whatever. Nico Horner can play shortstop. There's other guys on the market you can sign to play shortstop. You might lose some offense at the position, but overall, you have enough of a stopgap to get you to the Ed Howards of the world, to get you to the Aprecios, whoever that next guy is at short. And especially if you got your big swingers, your big swinging dicks, for example, in the lineup, you got your Willie, you got your Rizzo, you got your Bryant. Now you move some pieces around. And Joe, we talked, the three of us talked ad nauseum in the offseason about it. Bring in some more high contact bats, maybe. All of us were very high on a guy like Michael Brantley, who's a very high contact guy. You bring in somebody like that, maybe. You bring in, I don't know. Again, like we talked about in 16, how critical Ben Zobrist was to that lineup because of his ability to not only hit for power, but be that contact, get on base kind of guy. Like they only need to tinker and tool with this roster. This doesn't need I agree. This does not need to be a full rebuild. I think it's absolute bullshit if they do full blown rebuild, because I think that's just the coward way of dipping out of it, not wanting to spend money. And they're thinking, Theo and Jed did it once. Why can't Jed do it again? Again, like we've even said it. It happens once in a blue moon. Retool this roster. It's still a good roster. Like, I'm actually today, you know what? Like, honestly, from these two games this weekend, yes, they split. They got the shit kicked out of them today, whatever. But there was a lot of good things in these last two games that we hadn't seen in the last 10 plus. That makes me kind of excited as this team rolls into May now, Like, maybe they can put it together and at least, again, be competitive. They've been absolute ass, more or less, this season so far. And yet they're what? Only a couple games out of the division right now?
Yeah, you're right about today. Today was a day where even when they were down a ton of runs, I still wanted to watch them bat. There's been games where I have not wanted to really watch them bat because you're just like, oh, this is atrocious. But I felt like there was quality at bats there, and you had a feeling that they were going to, hit a line drive somewhere or really, hit the ball hard somewhere instead of just seeing these like weak pop-ups and ground outs we've been seeing so long. I guess we could talk about this too. Someone's been asking about Ian Happ in the leadoff spot. He hasn't really put it together. He let off the game with a base hit today, and then Contreras grounded to a double play, which is my only gripe about Willie batting second. He hits a lot of ground balls. That's just my only thing. You just don't want that early in the game, That's why I've never been the biggest proponent of Willie at 2. Otherwise, the lineup for the most part, I still like the righty-lefty thing. And again, I don't know how much you could put of any of this on the coaches. You really, as far as the manager goes, Ross is, I judge managers on how they handle the bullpen. And it hasn't been too many times where I'm like, why did he bring that guy in? For the most part, there's been one or two, but that's going to be like that with the greatest managers ever. You're going to at least question a move here or there. But for the most part, his moves have made sense. Someone's like, they should have taken Hendricks out in the first inning. I'm like, they were solo home runs. Now but it's hard to do that. It's hard. You're not going to have your bullpen ready to go in the first inning when you have Kyle Hendricks up anyway. I was fine with how that played out.
I will say that I didn't like bringing Mills in after Hendricks. I know that he's the long relief guy, but they're too similar. And we see it whenever he was in the rotation too. It's especially when they were back to back, it affected Hendricks and it affected Mills too, I thought last year. Yeah. So I understand that they just wanted to do
though. Shelby Miller's getting lit up.
Right. And again, that's a problem deeper than, why Ross brought Mills in. And again, the Cubs were down in this game. So it's, in a game that, after Rizzo made it 6-3, I was like, we can make some noise here and we might be able to come back. But
yeah, because Mills didn't give up. What did Mills give up? 1 run?
Gave up 1 run, yeah. But then they took him out earlier than I would have liked.
If he would have been okay. Let the game go out of sight.
Yeah, right.
Hitting people and then giving up a bomb.
Right.
Well, what killed Mills, though, is I think because of the hits and everything that he ended up giving, he actually got charged with 3 runs. He and Tepera.
Because he left with some guys on base. That's true.
Yeah, and then Tepera just couldn't control anything today.
I think that was a roster function, but it's because, Miller just hasn't looked good and he pitched the other day. And again, you're not
yesterday,
you just don't count on Kyle Hendricks to need a piggyback starter. So,
right.
I think at that
point, this
is
a different situation. You probably you're hoping you don't have to have this situation again, right? Because it's Kyle Hendricks. He is the ace of the staff, right?
In another situation, if it was down the road, maybe with an off day, you're like, screw it, I'll just make this a bullpen game and we'll play the numbers. And this guy gets an inning, that guy gets an inning, and we're just going to empty out the bullpen and then make a roster move another time. But I get what happened. As far as Happ leading off goes, Happ strikes out a lot, but I don't mind a lot of strikeouts from the leadoff spot. I think Happ will get going. He has good at bats. He works the count. Even again, Happ is another guy where even when they're going bad, he's still seeing a lot of pitches. He strikes out a lot too. Last year he made a great stride on cutting back on the Ks. Literally since he came back up from Iowa in 2019, he's done a really good job bringing his strikeout rate down to around league average, which you could live with. Leadoff hitters, though, them striking out doesn't bother me as much because there's usually nobody on base. It's striking out when there's runners on base, second and third, nobody out, and you're striking out. Runner, all that's what kills you. You want high contact guys. Rizzo has always been a great RBI guy because he's a high contact guy. Aramis Ramirez, back when the Cubs had him in his prime, he was driving 120 runs a year because he rarely struck out. Those are the guys you want really up and down your lineup every other spot. But leadoff, it'd be nice to have people have to remember too. Look around baseball. Who has that old school leadoff hitter who's going to steal you 60 bases and bat 310 and have a 400 on base percent? This isn't the 80s. We're not playing RBI baseball. It just doesn't exist. Javier Baez is leading the National League in stolen bases right now. Are you guys aware of that? He is.
I'm not surprised, honestly. He's
got 6, and that leads the league. This isn't. Yeah. There's no Whit Merrifield's that guy. And maybe 4 or 5 other people, but even Acuna, who steals a shitload of bases, he's power. He's looking 40 home runs. Right.
He's a 40-40 guy potentially.
And even Merrifield drives in runs. He's a big run producer for Kansas City a lot too. So even though he has some of those old school attributes as that leadoff hitter, I think another example just on the south side of Chicago. It's true.
Tim Anderson doesn't get on base a lot, though. That's his one knock. Tim Anderson's a great hitter, but even the year he won a batting title, he hit 335, and his on base percentage was 348. It's
He
He's got a
doesn't walk
4% walk rate.
But that just goes to show, like, there's so many different types of leadoff hitters, like you said, Joe, nowadays that aren't that traditional. You're going to get on, you're going to steal second. Like, I just think back to the Cubs, right? Back in the 80s, right? Sandberg would come up too and, driving the leadoff hitter, and you're up 1-0 early. Like, that doesn't happen much anymore. And it's nice when it does, but, it really doesn't happen all that often. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I feel like, again, I actually feel pretty okay. Like, yes, today sucked. It wasn't fun. ESPN 100% made it worse, Cody. I completely agree with you there. It just like, but like, there was a lot of good things. Like, Cubs still had 10 hits today. Like, that makes me feel a lot better. Yes, obviously they got lit up and whatever, but like, in the grand scheme of it, like what we've been bitching about at nauseum after these games is like, holy fuck, just get some more hits. And they did that today. So like, I felt good about that. They had the offensive explosion yesterday. They got an off day coming up now tomorrow. They see a pretty good Mets team now coming up this week, and I know we're going to kind of briefly touch on the preview here in a few minutes about Tuesday's game, but I feel okay. Like, things feel okay going into May. But I think the next key now is we just need to continue to see this, The offense put together these good at-bats. KB continuing to have the really good, strong approach. Seeing guys like Wilson Contreras be as hot as he is. Getting Anthony Rizzo going would be huge. Even getting a guy like Jock Peterson going a little bit would be nice, too. I know he had a
couple
triple
hits tonight.
Yeah, he had a triple late in the game in today's
I think a walk, a triple, and a single.
Yeah. Nice day from Jock. Like, a couple more games like that. Like, this weekend had a lot of good elements to it. And yes, like, there's parts of the pitching that, the Miller stuff sucked, and unfortunately with the Mills and Tepera being wild, like you mentioned, Cody, that sucked. And obviously Kyle giving up the 6 runs in the first wasn't ideal, but it's like, how often does that happen to Kyle? Not very often. Like, he'll if there's any if there's any dude on this roster from a pitching perspective that we can feel okay about coming into his next start, it is Kyle Hendricks. So,
and he hasn't pitched in 10 days, so I think his command was off.
Yeah.
With pitchers who are finesse, and he's textbook finesse pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
The long gaps screws them up. They hate that stuff. So I really think, having because they almost thought he had COVID, but I guess he didn't. And, they skipped his last start. He wasn't keeping his stuff down. Everything was just kind of hanging up. Didn't have that crispness. And a day with the wind blowing out, it's going to eat up on you quickly. So that really kind of ended the game pretty quickly. It was nice to see some fight back. Rizzo hit a couple bombs. He's looking like, for the fans who were like, oh, Rizzo was smiling a few games ago when they were losing. How dare he? He smiles because you want to keep your head at a certain level. Would you rather him down in the dumps and getting pissing and moaning and all that? You keep that attitude, you don't come out of it. I'm a big subscriber and people keeping their heads up. It's human to be like pissed off and to want to bash stuff in. Don't get me wrong. When I watch the game and they're playing like crap, I'm like throwing stuff too. I am. But as a player, I don't want to see my players do that. It really,
especially a guy that
it's like in the old in when me and Ron were kids and Carlos Zambrano's fighting guys in the dugout. Like, you don't want to see that as much as when I was a kid. I loved it, but like, when you care about winning and stuff like that, you don't want to see stuff like that. So,
well, and especially with a guy like Rizzo too, who is looked at as a leader of this team. There's a reason there's the C on the Tony t-shirts here. Like, that's the guy you want smiling constantly. He's the reason that they can like, honest to God, maybe the biggest silver lining that I don't think we've talked about much early in this season is they're hanging around in these games. They're hanging around, they have a good attitude overall. Like, that's good. That's going to bode well for the next, 4 or 5 months of baseball, because if you're already down in the dumps after April, then you are going to suck, because that's going to bleed into your play if your attitude in the clubhouse is dog shit. So far, it seems like the attitude, amongst the team is good, which is huge, because then now as weather, gets better, guys start to get going, guys are getting into a routine. That's all just going to become natural. And ideally, as long as things go right and weird shit doesn't happen, like the damn play tonight where, the screamer down to first base caught out, type shit. But like, outside of that, things are going to go good. Like, guys get hot, that's going to lead to W's. So I feel good about this, but I don't know about you guys. Do you guys have any kind of final thoughts to wrap up the weekend before we look ahead to Tuesday's game?
I'll just say that ESPN sucks. Fuck them. That's all I really got. They really did make the game worse, and I understand it's national broadcast, and they're not going to say all positive things about the Cubs, and they didn't say all positive things about the Braves either. I just they just if I come on here, if I quite literally put the in the caption for this live video that we're doing right now to open slander for ESPN broadcasts, that says something, and it's all across fan bases in baseball. No one likes ESPN broadcasts. I hope the Cubs don't play on ESPN the rest of the year. I know they do, but I wish that they would just remove them so I don't have to deal with it. That's all I have.
I respect that.
Do I have anything to say before we go into next week? I don't know. I for some reason I looked at my phone on Twitter and saw a really dumb response that pissed me off. I believe Kyle Hendricks is an ace. Someone doesn't, and they're basing it off of 3 starts this year. And I go, dude, it's 3 starts. And it's like, yeah, after 3 starts, he's not putting up ace numbers. I'm like, okay. When will people fucking realize that it's a 162 game season? Tony Andracki, who's a great Twitter follower for Cubs coverage, he posted, here is Wilson Contreras' numbers after week 1. Mm-hmm. It was like an OPS of 500, which if you guys don't know is horrendous, right? Terrible. That should make you not in baseball. And then the next week it was over 1,000, which that puts you in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And then I quote tweeted that going, it's almost as if this is a really long season. And a lot of people loved it because they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Guys, if you're going to live and die on this every game thing, this isn't for you. I've said it before, and I'm doing it for your own mental health and for my mental health because I don't want to see the bitching and complaining. I know this has been a common thread of mine, and I love Cubs fans, and most of the fans have been good, and everyone who's been commenting is at least coming at us with educated baseball takes. But if you're just going to do a Kyle Hendricks is terrible, and I go, why? Well, he gave up 6 runs in the first inning. I go, oh, okay. He literally said, I go, dude, I think Kyle Hendricks is an ace because he's put up ace stats. And I like this guy for the most part, but I even said to him, I'm like, dude, you can't react after losses. After losses, you throw all your logic out the window. There's no more accuracy out of you. You're just pissed off and it's raw emotions. And then he goes, well, sorry, but aces know how to win a big game when their team needs to win a series. And then I responded with, yeah, Kyle Hendricks has never won a big game to win a series before, has he? I can't think of any time Kyle Hendricks has come through to win a big series. It can't, right?
He would have got a W if Joe Madden would have just left him in.
Yeah, so exactly. Well, game six, he actually left him in. He went into the fucking 8th. Remember, he won game 6 against the Dodgers to get us to the World Series, which, by the way, biggest game in Cubs history to that point. The whole world was watching, and Kyle Hendricks was like, I got this shit. Also had a 2.14 ERA that year, led the league. And again, I'm not living in the past because last year he had a 2.87 ERA and was the 9th best pitcher in baseball by every measurement. If you go by WAR, Fangraphs, Baseball Reference, even. I don't know. I just don't get the whole idea of being like, well, these 3 starts say he's not an ace. It's like
Kyle Hendricks, we talk about how the core position players, we envision them being, great baseball players as they got into their prime. I don't know about you guys, but after watching Kyle Hendricks in 2015, where he was the 5 starter and he was getting hit around hard a lot because he throws soft and shit like that, I wouldn't have guessed that he was going to do what he did in 16 and has become one of the Cubs' best pitchers to this point in his career. I was a lot younger and dumber in 2015, but still, I didn't envision it. So,
well, he was a 4-starter, Hendricks, and he won.
Was he a 4-starter?
He was the 4-starter that year because they had in 15 it was Lester Arrieta, Jason Hamill, and then Hendricks, and the 5th starter was
Dan Herron. Dan
Herron. They traded for late in the year. Yeah, they were shuffling around that 5th spot a little bit early in the year. And
that's true. Thanks for correcting me. Yeah,
he was a great Twitter follow. But Hendricks won game 2 of the playoffs. Because Arrieta had to go the wild card game. Lester went game 1 against the Cardinals, and we lost. It was a close game. But Hendricks got the W in game 2, which was huge. Another ace-type moment. You're down 1-0 in a best-of-5, and you come out and get a W on the road, which then the Cubs came back and beat the shit out of the Cardinals on games 3 and 4, which was awesome. I love bringing that up whenever I can. But 2014, Kyle Hendricks had an ERA in the 2s. And it was only 15 starts. He came up, and it was a second-half call-up. But by the way, the Cubs developed Kyle Hendricks. When we traded for him, he was an A-ball pitcher. We developed him. We didn't draft him, but we developed him. We developed Jake Arrieta. Okay. Yeah, he was with the Orioles and he was a former first-round pick, but he had a 6 ERA the season before we came and told him, hey, don't pitch like that anymore. Start to throw your cutter again. You don't need the big windup. Let's simplify things. That's development too, but you don't get credit for it. Anyhow, I'm going down a different tangent because I get annoyed when people just look to the negative. Look, there's a lot of negative naturally. You don't have to look for more negative. Again, I'm not asking everyone to be fans like me. I get that. Cody, you want to tweet? I'm ready for them to break my heart. That's fine. But there's enough negative where you don't need to create negative that isn't fucking there, is my overall point I'm trying to make, I believe. No, Hendricks was a guy that he had that Maddox-like stuff, that natural movement. So his 2016 wasn't as surprising to me. Also, his 2015, his ERA was like 3.9, I want to say, but his FIP indicated that he should have been like a 3.3 for the season. 2015 Cubs had not as strong a defense. The 2016 Cubs obviously had a historically great defense, which helped with the 2.14 ERA that he exhibited that whole season. The Cubs' ERAs that whole year were ridiculous. I mean, their fifth starter, John Mackey, had a 3-something.
Again, in 2015, I was younger and dumber, man.
I know. Were you 21?
I was in 2015. I was a senior in college. I was like 23 or 24.
Oh yeah. See, when I was 23, I didn't know how to read statistics either.
Yeah, honestly,
no, I'm kidding. I did. You're a fucking idiot, Cody. All right. You didn't know how baseball cards work?
I wasn't reading fan graphs all the time in 2015. That's for sure. I'll admit to that. That's fine.
I will just to kind of wrap up the thought, because I know you also were like, oh yeah, the fifth spot kind of moved around. Some of the names I recognize that pitched in that fifth spot include Dan Herron, as we mentioned. You got Trevor Cahill. Edwin Jackson was on the roster that season. Clayton Richard,
start of the year.
Travis Wood, I think, made a couple starts still that year, so it was kind
Clayton
of
Richard, I believe, right?
Yeah, Clayton Richard was on that list. Yeah, he got a couple starts as well. So yeah, that fifth spot was kind of a rotating door from that 2015 Cubs season. But well, guys, I mean, Tuesday's going to be a good game for those that will be able to be in attendance. Good for you, because Jake is taking the mount. Jake, I mean, pitching well this season. He's obviously lost his last start, but 2-1 with a 3.18 ERA is a pretty nice way to start the season. The Mets, as of now, are set to be trotting out Taijuan Walker. And I say as of now because Cody and I got to go through that with the Braves for that Friday game. And we're like, yeah, Drew Smiley. And then it was this dude. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it is supposed to be Walker versus Arrieta. But do you guys just quickly preview Tuesday's game a little bit? It is a night game, 6:40 at Wrigley Field.
I will just say that I believe the Cubs have to face DeGrom on Thursday, which I will be at that game.
I'll be at that game too.
Nice.
With some very popular people in the Cubs Twitter world, so it should be a fun time.
Nice. Anyway, with DeGrom pitching Thursday, I don't want to say that it's crucial that the Cubs win at least two of these first, or at least one of these first two games, but I would say that it's kind of like a must thing, because if you don't win at least one of them going into that series recap against Jacob deGrom. I know the Mets don't score runs for him, but still, like, he struck out like 14 his last two. Yeah, we beat him a few years ago, like 1-0 or something like that, right? Because
no, I think we put up some runs on him. There was a series in 2019 when the Cubs offense was struggling, and then we came in and beat up Thor Syndergaard and beat up deGrom, and it was one of those things where it's like, this team makes no sense. How are you guys struggling against that bad Reds pitching of 2019 and then beat up on the Mets? It was weird.
Either way, though, like, deGrom is one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Definitely.
I honestly, you bring that game up, he probably, knowing him, he probably remembers that, and he wants to put better performance, even if it has been a couple years. So you just don't want to be in a situation where you have to like absolutely win that game against Jacob deGrom. So, I would say that Tuesday's game is, I mean, it's not the end of the world if we don't win, but it's like, I think for the Cubs, like, confidence in terms of like getting a series win, I think they need to win. I don't think they haven't won the first game of a series since, I think, when. Well, no, they didn't even win opening day. No, they didn't even win opening day. They haven't won a first game in a series at all yet, I don't believe. Well, no, they did against Milwaukee.
No, they beat the Pirates and they lost 2 in a row.
Yeah,
and they beat Milwaukee. Okay. We were at the game where they beat Milwaukee.
That's true. My bad. Either way, like
Sorry.
it is what you want to do. You want to try and get the first game of the series. It sets the tone for the entire series. I feel like
For
that
sure.
puts more pressure on the Mets to have to score runs, which again they can't score runs. Maybe a large part of that is because Chili Davis is the hitting coach, like Joe said earlier. So yeah, man, let's just win a baseball game so I can forget about this loss tonight. And like you said, Ron, I want to be there. I'm there. I'm like in and out every freaking day. That's just how I'm built. I'm built for 162. Like I'm not gonna spit out stupid bad takes like Kyle Hendricks isn't good, but like I'm just I need this team to show me something. You know what I mean?
Well, like Joe said earlier in the show, you got to ride the roller coaster, man. And everybody rides the roller coaster differently. Some people like to puke, and some people got their hands up, screaming, and enjoying, and loving every second of it. So it's different. But I mean, this is actually, you mentioned the whole getting ready for DeGrom on Thursday. They will face Peterson, who has a 6.30 ERA on Wednesday. I'll actually be at that game when Davies goes for the Cubs. So a good opportunity going into that game with DeGrom on Thursday with Williams, who's slated to pitch against him that day. A good chance, potentially being up 2 games out of 3 in the series. Well, gentlemen, Cody, I know you pick Andrew Chafin, as always, for your Fly the W player. Joe, do you got a player in mind for Tuesday's game?
Fly the W player will be wait, is it a righty pitching on Tuesday?
Yeah,
I missed
Walker's
that.
a righty.
Yes, he's a righty. I got Jock Peterson. I just feel like he's got some good quality at bats going lately. Just for fun, in 2019, it was August 29th, 2019, the Cubs swept the Mets that year. They beat Syndergaard, I call him Thor, and DeGrom, they did beat 4-1, so it wasn't like a blowout like I thought it was. Victor Caratini went 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs, including 2 home runs, both off of DeGrom. And what else? Who else drove in a run?
Nice job, baseball.
Caratini drove in all 4.
Yeah.
Javi was 1 for 4. Bryant was 1 for 3 with a walk, so he had a good game. Rizzo did not play.
I'm pretty sure I have a photo in my camera roll of Victor Caratini's like epic bat flip from that game.
Yeah, he had a really badass one.
Yes.
And fun fact, we were talking about the 2015 playoffs earlier. The Mets obviously swept us in the NLCS, but Kyle Schwarber hit like a 450-foot home run off DeGrom. It was a high and away fastball. Which
I wish I could remember that more than Daniel Murphy literally ripping me a new asshole that year. But
you got to choose what you want to choose. That's why I don't like the Buster Onlys being like, they're going to look back on they should have won more World Series. No, I'm going to look back at a 7-year period in which the Cubs made the playoffs. 5, who knows, still maybe 6 out of 7 years, including a World Series and a lot of fun along the way. That's what I'm going to choose to look on. And as far as this upcoming series, obviously, I'd love to sweep. I'm thinking Wednesday gets maybe rained out, guys. It's supposed to be 39 and snowy on Wednesday.
Oh boy, that doesn't set.
Luckily, Thursday is going to be 55 and sunny when we go, but still.
Okay, I haven't looked into the weather on that, but so thank God.
And then 60 on Friday, so maybe that 60 comes a little sooner. Maybe it doesn't snow, but that's what the forecast says right now. So I'm imagining one of these games gets called.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that we'll have to keep an eye on. But speaking of, Joe, you remembering what you want to and picking that alley, we hope that everybody picks to come over and check out ontapsportsnet.com because we are the official Cubs podcast of the OnTap Sports
Screenshot
Network.
that.
You can go ahead and check us out at www.ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. Be sure to follow the individual podcast account if you would like. It's at Cubbies, Cubbies on tap on both Twitter and Instagram. Joe is at Joe Kilgallen on Twitter. Cody is at Cody on tap, and I am at Loose on tap. Once again, the On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Well, gentlemen, this was a fun one. We had a lot of good things to talk about. We appreciate everybody that watched along with us. Great comments as well, like Joe mentioned throughout the show. Really sparked a lot of good conversation in this one from us. And gentlemen, without further ado, let's get out of here. Off day tomorrow. Comes back at it on Tuesday. Let's go Cubbies.
Let's go Cubbies.